She was ranked 143rd 2 years ago. On Saturday, she destroyed a 4-time Grand Slam champion in 76 minutes. 76 minutes. That's how long it took a 21-year-old from a country that has never produced a top-level tennis player to walk onto a sold-out stadium court in Washington, D.C. and dismantle a 4-time Grand Slam champion. Not push her. Not upset her in a nail-biter. Dismantle her. 6-4, 6-2. 6 games. That's all Naomi Osaka won. And here's the part that should stop you cold. This wasn't a fluke. I'm about to show you 8 weeks of results that prove point for point that this was planned. That somewhere in the last 2 months, a player nobody was watching turned herself into a problem nobody on tour can solve. And there's one detail buried in the middle of this story. A repeated scoreline against one of the smartest players in the world, that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Stick around, because by the end of this video you're going to understand exactly what Alex Eala figured out, and why the tennis world is only now catching up to it. If stories like this, the ones about people who show up with nothing and outwork everyone who had everything, are the kind of thing you want more of, hit subscribe before we get into it, because this channel is about to cover the biggest final of her career. Let's start with the number that nobody in tennis media wants to say out loud, because it sounds made up. At the start of 2025, Alexandra Eala was ranked 143rd in the world. Not a typo. 143rd. She was grinding through qualifying draws, playing WTA 125 events, the tour's minor leagues, trying to scrape together enough ranking points to matter. The Philippines is not a tennis country. It's a basketball country. It's a boxing country. Manny Pacquiao is the national sports religion, and he came from a completely different world. For over 100 years of organized women's tennis, no Filipina had ever cracked the top 100. Not once. So when Eala was a young teenager, she did something most 13-year-olds never have to consider. She left home and moved to Spain to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy, an ocean away from her family, with no template, no former Filipina champion to call for advice, and no guarantee any of it would work. For years, it looked like it might not. She spent 2023 and 2024 trying to break into Grand Slam qualifying. Not the tournament, the qualifying rounds before the tournament. She won an ITF title in Spain in the summer of 2024 and kept grinding. And then she landed at 143, which sounds like progress, and in a sense it was. But 143 is also exactly where careers quietly die. You're too good for the smallest events and not good enough to get into the big ones. You're flying yourself to secondary tournaments, paying your own way, playing for prize money that barely covers the trip. Most players who reach that ranking never climb meaningfully higher. They stall there for years and eventually disappear from the sport. Now add the other weight she was carrying. Every loss was a national story, because there was no one else. If you've ever been the only person in a room attempting something nobody around you has done before, you already understand what that pressure feels like. Then came March 2025. Miami. Eala got into the Miami Open on a wild card, essentially a favor from the tournament, a sponsor exemption, the tennis equivalent of being let in the side door. Ranked 140th in the world at the time, she had never beaten a top 20 player in her career. Over the next week, she beat 3 of them. She knocked out 2017 French Open champion Elena Ostapenko. She beat Madison Keys, that year's Australian Open champion. Then she beat Iga Świątek, at the time the world number 2 and a 5-time major winner. 3 Grand Slam champions, 1 tournament as a teenage wildcard ranked outside the top 100. She became the first Filipina ever to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal and the first to crack the world's top 100. In 7 days, she went from a name nobody outside tennis diehards knew to a household name across an entire country. And here's what almost never gets told honestly about that week. She lost the semifinal. She played world number 4 Jessica Pegula, and it went the distance. 7-6, 3, 5-7, 6-3. Eala actually won the second set to level the match, with the whole Philippines watching in the middle of the night, before Pegula closed it out in the third. 1 match from the biggest final of her life, and the door shut. Hold on to that loss, because it's going to matter again very soon. Here's the uncomfortable truth about a breakout week like Miami. It doesn't just make you famous. It resets what counts as failure. Before Miami, Eala losing in an early round was nothing. Nobody noticed. After Miami, every match came loaded with a question. Was that real? Or did she just catch 3 players on bad days? 3 months later, on the grass at Eastbourne, she got an answer to give the doubters, and then almost immediately gave them a different one. She reached her first ever WTA Tour final. 1 match from her first title. She led Maya joint 2 sets to love. Sorry. She split the first 2 sets and had 4 championship points in a 3rd set tiebreak. She saved none of the pressure and converted none of the points. Joint saved all 4 match points and won it 6-4, 1-6, 7-6, 10-12. Eala finished 2025 ranked in the top 50, a genuinely excellent season by any measure, but look at the shape of it. 2 finals-level chances. 2 times her hand was on the door. 2 times somebody closed it from the other side. And here's the harder question underneath all of that. Is there a difference between a player who can beat anyone on a great day and a player who can actually win a tournament? Because those are not remotely the same skill. Beating a former world number 1 once is a performance. Winning 7 matches in a row against 7 different puzzles, tired, nervous, with a target on your back instead of nothing to lose, that's an entirely different job. Tennis has a name for players stuck between those 2 things. They're dangerous. They beat a top player once or twice a year. They never actually win. And there was a real, specific reason to worry Eala might be exactly that player long-term. She's left-handed, and she doesn't have a huge serve. In the modern women's game, a big serve is the standard escape hatch. When your rhythm disappears mid-match, free points from the serve paper over a bad day. Eala doesn't have that shortcut. On the days her timing is off, she has to solve the match point by point, from scratch, with no easy way out. So by the start of this summer, that was the honest read on Alex Eala. Massive talent, 2 pieces of finals heartbreak, and a structural hole in her game that could cap her right where she was. Then something changed. And it didn't happen on the night everyone's now writing headlines about. 6 weeks before Washington, Eala won a WTA 125 title in Birmingham, England, in front of a few thousand people at a tournament most casual fans couldn't name. It was her 2nd title at that level. On its own, a nice week. But watch what it set off. The very next stop was Berlin, a WTA 500 event, where she walked in as a wild card and beat world number 2 Elena Rybakina in straight sets, 7-5, 6-4, rallying from a breakdown. 2 days later, she beat world number 8 Elina Svitolina, 6-3, 6-4, to reach her first WTA 500 semifinal. Then came Wimbledon, where she opened with 2 straight set wins, and in the 3rd round on center court, she took down the defending champion, Iga Świątek, in a 2-hour, 7-set point classic, 7-6, 9, 6-2. That made Eala the first Filipino man or woman in the Open era to reach the 4th round of a Grand Slam. She'd go on to lose that round of 16 match to Jasmine Paolini in 3 tight sets, but the run itself rewrote more than 70 years of Philippine tennis history in a single fortnight. Now here's the detail that changes how you should read everything that happened afterward in Washington. In Berlin, in June, Eala beat Svitolina 6-3, 6-4. 6 weeks later, in Washington, on a completely different surface in different conditions against a player who'd had 6 weeks and a full coaching team to prepare a rematch. She beat Svitolina again. 6-3, 6-4. The identical scoreline, twice, against a savvy, experienced former world number 3 who absolutely knew what was coming the second time. You don't accidentally produce that scoreline twice against a player of that caliber. That's not a hot streak. That's a solution somebody keeps applying. Which brings us back to Osaka, and I need you to throw out the version of the story every headline ran with. The one where Eala is a shotmaker riding confidence and crowd noise until the run inevitably ends. Look at what actually happened on that court instead. For games all in the first set, Osaka serving. She loses the first 3 points, giving Eala 3 break points and a chance to serve out the opener. Osaka, a 4-time major champion who has been in this exact pressure spot 100 times, saves all 3. Deuce. This is the moment a young player is supposed to fold, because this is precisely what great champions do to prospects who haven't been here before. Make them win it 4 separate times. 2 points later, Osaka nets a forehand. Eala breaks. Then she holds serve to close the set at love, not scraping through 3 deuces with shaking hands. For points, no reply. Set over in 38 minutes. Second set, Osaka double faults away an early break. Eala holds again at love. 2 service games at love, at the 2 most pressurized moments of the match, from the player who supposedly has no serve to hide behind. That's not luck. That's a player who walked out already knowing exactly what she was going to do. But if you think that Osaka match is the best evidence of what's going on here, you're actually looking at the wrong match, because Osaka was only the 4th-seeded scalp Eala collected that week in Washington, and the first 3 tell you far more. Round 1. Zheng Qinwen, the 2024 Paris Olympic gold medalist and a former world number 4. Eala dropped the first set 4-6, clawed back to win the second 6-4, then blew the third open 6-1 to close it out in just under 2.5 hours. Round 2. Defending DC Open champion Leylah Fernandez. Eala won the first set comfortably, 6-2, then found herself down 1-5 in the second, 1 game from a decider, before winning 5 straight games to force and then win a tiebreak, 7-6-1. Quarterfinal, Elina Svitolina, that identical 6-3, 6-4 scoreline from Berlin. Semifinal, Osaka, 6-4, 6-2. 3 seeded players eliminated. An Olympic gold medalist and a defending champion, gone in the same draw as a 4-time major winner, also gone. Here's the number that turns this from good week into an argument. That win over Osaka was Eala's 6th victory over a top 10 player in the 2026 season alone. Across her career, she's now played 12 matches against top 10 opposition and won 8 of them. 8 of 12. Dangerous floaters, the players who beat a big name once a year and call it a career highlight, don't win 2 out of every 3 matches against the world's elite. They win 1 in 5 and everyone calls it a shock. Now here's the piece almost nobody has actually said out loud, and it's the real engine behind all of this. Look at where the Svitolina quarterfinal was actually won. Eala took 24 points on return to Svitolina's 13. 24-13. Remember the supposed weakness: no big serve, no free points, no way to paper over a rough patch? She didn't fix that problem. She inverted it. Instead of trying to protect her own service games, she makes her opponent's service games unbearable. Her return position on second serve is aggressive by design, and it shows up in match after match. Osaka lost her serve at 4-all in the first set and again in the opening game of the second. Svitolina had a break in hand in the second set in Washington and then lost 5 of the next 6 games. The game that's supposed to be the safest one on court becomes the exact place the match slips away from her opponents. That's the system. That's why Berlin and Washington produced the same score against the same player. Not coincidence. The same solution applied twice. So here's your answer to how a player ranked 143rd 2 years ago walks onto a hard court and takes apart a 4-time major champion in 76 minutes. She doesn't out-hit anyone. She makes their serve, the one weapon everyone else in the draw relies on to survive a bad day, into the most dangerous liability on the court. And it's worth saying plainly, the crowd around all of this hasn't been ordinary tennis audience behavior. American outlets covering this week in Washington described the atmosphere at Eala's matches as something closer to a concert than a tennis crowd. Flags? Chants? A stadium that didn't behave the way tennis crowds are supposed to. Osaka herself said afterward she'd never experienced anything quite like it on a tennis court. Whatever effect that had, it wasn't decoration. Eala came into the tournament ranked number 28 in the world, already the highest any Filipino has ever been ranked. By beating Osaka, she moved into the world's top 25 for the first time in her career and in her country's history. And now there's one match left. On Sunday, she faces the exact opponent you should have seen coming: Jessica Pegula, the same player who ended her breakout Miami run in 3 sets back in March 2025. Pegula enters as the tournament's top seed, chasing her 3rd DC Open title on the court, where she won her first career trophy back in 2019. And she arrives red-hot, 22 wins and 4 losses on hard courts this season, the most match wins on the entire WTA Tour in 2026. Eala, ranked 28th, is playing for her first tour-level singles title, $250,000, and a debut inside the world's top 20. Same two players who met in that Miami semifinal 17 months ago. Same stage, raised significantly higher. Except this time, Eala walks in having already beaten an Olympic champion, a defending champion, a top 10 player, and a 4-time Grand Slam winner just to get there. Pegula, for her part, didn't dodge the question when reporters asked her about Eala this week. She called her a fan of the way Eala plays and said plainly that she's the future of the tour and that she's already here. Not arriving. Not promising. Here. What makes this bigger than one final is easy to lose in the scorelines. Ticket demand at this tournament reportedly spiked the moment Eala's name went on the entry list. A stadium that seats thousands sold out for a player who, a week earlier, was outside the world's top 30. And Osaka, who has played in front of virtually every kind of crowd tennis has to offer, said she'd never heard anything quite like it. I genuinely don't know how Sunday goes. Pegula is one of the most dangerous hardcourt players alive right now, and Eala has logged more time on court this week than anyone left in the draw. Fatigue is real and almost nobody is talking about it. But the deeper question isn't whether Alex Eala eventually becomes a top 20 player. On the numbers alone, that's already close to inevitable. The real question is whether top 20 was ever the right ceiling to be discussing in the first place. That's the kid who was ranked 143rd, who got on a plane alone with no map and nobody who'd done it before her. She's one match away from changing the answer. Tell me in the comments what you think happens on Sunday, and subscribe if you want the full breakdown the moment that final is over, because whichever way it goes, it's going to tell us exactly which story we've been watching all along.